morning, good afternoon, good evening, yWhales. Again, anywhere in the world you are today, we're seeing really a lot of excitement right now in the Web3 cryptoverse world. And with the, kind of Bitcoin's hovering right around 22,000 right now after kind of the big crash, theoretically in about 60-ish days, there's supposed to be an Ethereum merge. So we're seeing a little bit of excitement around there. But overall, the market's down, and not just the crypto market, but the overall global financial markets are down. And what's that caused is when there's not this big, excitement over every coin's, getting, double-digit increases every single day for weeks and months on end. That kind of causes a lot of the casual retail buyers to disappear. But what it starts to appear in place of that is the builders. The idea that there's a lot of excitement around what the technology can do. We saw the last bull run, and we saw where people kind of gravitated towards. And so now you're going to start seeing a little bit of maturity in the market. Those that were there and watched from an investor, or kind of just from just kind of an excitement space like John here, really kind of watched, learned, and understood the entire ecosystem, where things were going, how they were managed, and designed out his theses around this. And now we're going to talk to we got Mr. John Van Horn here, and he can tell you kind of what he learned over the last year plus, and why he's getting into the space full time today. So John, very good to see you, sir.
Jay, thank you for having me. I love the show, so I'm really happy to be on here and share a story and share a brief.
Awesome. Yeah. So let's go ahead and start, because you have an incredible background. And first and foremost, thank you for your service. But talk to us a little bit about, your history around, the concept, and then, why you feel that it's something that needs to be brought on chain.
Yeah, Jay, I appreciate that question. I honestly, it's to go through the journey of where I got to today. There's a lot of bright, there's a lot of dark. So I would love to share this, not only for my own sake, but anyone else that's going through some stuff that's really can embrace wellness as a value. So to start with my background, to be quite honest, I grew up with a mom that was the epitome of resilience. She never quit. She was a single mom, 3 kids, multiple jobs, 7 days a week. I watched her struggle and suffer just to give us the best opportunity. And when I joined the military, it was kind of a funny story. My first official meeting was September 11th, 2001. And I was with the recruiter, and I actually left my college orientation to go to the recruiting center. We scheduled it for September 11th, ended up joining the military, which my mom was proud but scared. So, but I want to mention my mom because, throughout my entire life, she's been my rock. She's been my best friend. So fast forward through a lot of my professional zigzags and pivots, whether it was military, atmospheric science, drone businesses, getting into crypto, real estate. Fast forward to me being next to my mom on her deathbed. She's 57 years old. I'm holding her hand and her forehead while she takes her last breath. And at that time, I was running 2 drone businesses, and it absolutely shattered me. That moment shattered me, it broke me, and it sent me into this huge self-exploration mode. I walked away from my businesses. I had a fortunate to have an amazing wife, daughter, and family that was supporting me through the whole thing. And I probably hit every wellness method you could go down, whether it was many different varieties of meditation, or throwing a 50-pound ruck on and going for 10 miles just for the hell of it. Like I went through the ups and downs, and breath work was what really stuck. It was one of those things that you hear about, but once you try it, and it's really hard to explain with words once you get past your 5 senses. And that's what I experienced.
That's amazing. And I'm so sorry for your loss there. But again, sometimes it's through those amazing experiences, or not amazing experience in this case, but through those experiences, you can create amazing things and create a lot of value in the world around you. And so the idea that again, you're former military, and whether people understand the Department of Defense, you have access to anything. Like every possible resource is available to you guys through your training and whatnot. And if there's any benefits, that, believe me, the military is going to grab a hold of that and make use of it. And the fact that you found that just breathing is kind of a lost art. Talk me through kind of the experience of why that stuck with you.
Yeah. So breathwork, again, I went through a lot of different methods, but my wife shared this book, Breath by James Nestor with me, and it resonated really well. So with everything that I do, I generally jump in at an extreme head first, like let's get crazy and do it at the full max. So I attempted breathwork in the same fashion where I was like, let's get to the core of this. How far can I stretch this? And I went through the series of how long can I hold my breath after breath work. But what really got me was I dropped my respiration rate in one practice down to 2 breaths per minute, doing 10 seconds in, 10-second hold, and then 10-second exhale. I sustained that for about 45 minutes. And the experience I had with that was nothing short of just pure mystical, where I tell this to people, and it's really funny because I have a science background and I always wanted the science and how, measure it and this and that. But once you experience something like that, where I actually connected with my mother during that session. And and it sounds crazy. I didn't use any drugs, but I saw blue lights, like kind of orbing and going with my rhythm, and it was like it was absolutely incredible. And that's what really got me, was I can actually change my physiology, my mentality. I can get out of my thinking mind by just breathing, and it's incredible.
Yeah, it's I always reminisce back to one of the first Matrix movie, where it's just ingrained in our minds that like you have to be huffing and puffing oxygen as fast as you can, and when you're out of breath, like moving it quicker through your body somehow is supposed to work. And so I'm I've been a lifelong scuba diver. I've been diving since I was kind of 9 years old, so we've been around it a long time. And never hold your breath when you're diving, but also with that comes a lot of free diving. And I was really amazed from when I started and had a professional free diver teach me really within a couple days how to free dive, and was able to extend how long I could hold my breath from, I think I was about 90 seconds up to 5 minutes. Wow. And literally took about 3 days of practice to go from, and let me tell you, it's a very, as you say, it's a very spiritual, thought process to go through to how your body manages that. Now, again, 5 minutes is a very long time. I can't do that at my age now, but that was my teenage years. But the idea that teaching your body how to, absorb oxygen, how to treat your mind, how to kind of manage that. Let's jump right into Breev and what you're building and how that's going to help people to understand this entire process.
Absolutely. And there were seeds they were planting along the way that really, when Breev really started to take root, it was almost obvious to me. And so Breev and overall, we're creating the social breathwork community. And one of the seeds I want to talk about is breathing together with someone in sync. And the value that I found with that was doing that for about an hour with a friend one time. And it was, again, one of those experiences where it's like, whoa, what just happened? What a deep connection you can have with someone without verbally, communicating. So that was another seed with Breev, but me and the team came to the conclusion that having a social breathwork community where we provide live and recorded sessions, interactive sessions for people to breathe together, no matter where they are in the world, is a powerful thing. And like we spoke earlier about all the stuff that's going on in this world, there's just such stress and there's pressure, not just on your community or your country, but you individually of where you stand and this and that. There's so much that can be mitigated through breath work, and even more so in a breath work community as such as Breev.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. So Breev today, you guys are still in concept. Have you started coding yet?
No, we haven't started coding yet. We are in concept. We've had testing groups that have tested. We had a whole series of morning, afternoon, and evening sessions for them to give us feedback. And it was, one of those few times in business where you want people to absolutely rip apart your product so that you can make it better. And that was the intent, was tell me how awful this video is so that I can make it better. And we got some really amazing feedback. And the whole idea of breathing with this interactive 3D lungs with the plexus type design that flirts with the idea of Web3, it kind of shows where we are aiming and not necessarily where we're starting. And I love the roadmap that we've put together.
Love it. So talk us through a little bit of what that looks like now. And you're a startup. We just talked a little bit before we started recording, how pivots in startups, will happen and continue. So again, where you're at in the roadmap now and kind of what you see as the next few steps you're looking to take.
Yeah, absolutely. So the core of our product, I'd have to mention really our values here is community, wellness, and innovation. And the core of our product, no matter what it looks like, UI, UX, it's the community. And that's something that is so concrete that we are in community building mode right now. We want people of all types, breathwork experience. If you've never done it or if you've been doing it for 10 years, we are open to anyone that wants to join the community and really breathe, with us, with people they know, or if they just want to do it alone, it's fine. So very community building stage right now. And what we're looking at, we have wireframe for a mobile application. And that's really our first roadmap is when we get this mobile application, we want to make it highly customizable with the mobile app feel. So the UI, UX of the mobile application will be such that before a session, if you're going to join a live group session through a mobile application, you still have the ability to turn on and off certain features. If you don't want the interactive lungs to breathe to and you want to close your eyes knowing you're breathing with someone, that's fine. You can turn on the audio cues. If you want the visuals, then you can turn on and off. And you can do this through the mobile app, whether it's a single just you solo session, or if you really do want to join a group session with, you don't know who's joining you around the world, but you're going to be breathing with people in sync. And that's really the how we're going to be packaging this with the mobile app. The subsequent milestones down the road is we're looking at a VR app that is a total immersive scenario-based breathwork experience where we're going to set up the immersive experience where it may be everyday life, where you would actually have to use breathwork in that scenario as you would in real life to either drop your heart rate or raise your heart rate or whatever the scenario is in that immersive setting. And we're looking at biofeedback scenarios where we have a set of lungs that's the standard, inhale and exhale. And then through an audio, through the VR, we have your set of lungs and it's overlaid and you're trying to match it. And depending on how you do in the round, the immersive experience concludes a certain way. So we're looking at total immersive experience with the VR. The other thing that we're really shooting towards, we find a lot of value in a Metaverse Breathwork studio. And that's something that is again, another immersive thing, but very interactive, a little different than the VR, where you can actually interact with people in this metaverse studio, which kind of goes with the social breathwork community.
That's amazing. And so, I mean, really, again, really forward thinking, because we breathe. We do it by default. Our bodies are designed to do this. And, you know, there's so many different forms of meditation. I've been practicing transcendental meditation since I was probably about 6 years old.
Yeah.
My parents were teachers back in the 60s. And so by default, you know, you pick these things up and get to learn. And, you know, breathing is just, there's so many different forms of meditation, of which breathing is generally a small part of. And I love the idea of just focusing on that, you know, irregardless of, you know, religion or anything else. You're pushing it all away and saying you're human. And let us try to help you in this way. And whether you want to, you know, look at somebody breathing, you want to hear somebody breathing. And I hope it's kind of a little bit like the car GPS modules. I can pick what voice I want. But, you know, the idea that you're just focusing on something that while very small in most people's minds, actually can have a big implication and long-standing implications on them being able to reduce stress, which is, again, what I think a lot of this is about, correct?
Absolutely. And what I love about it is it's one of the few methods that you don't need anything. You don't need to be anywhere. You don't need to go to a studio. You don't have to buy $100, you know, yoga pants or anything like that. Like you're literally just, yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, we'll do a partnership with us. So I actually love the idea that, you know, with Web3, let's take that. Web3, Metaverse, whatever you're into, DeFi, NFT, what is the common denominator is that we're all in front of our screens even more. I sit there in front of a laptop and I absolutely love the interactive, the community side of Web3 and all this other stuff that comes with it. But you can't hide from the fact that we are staring at our screens. Eventually you start slumping over, and that creates a domino effect where you're breathing into your chest. It's more of a shallow breath. And then that opens it up to, if you're doing that chronically, then you're opening up to health risk. So what we want to do is we really want to provide a platform for people to, okay, if you're sitting in front of and you feel you're slumping, you're sluggish, well, break out Breev. Do an afternoon session where it kind of peps you back up and it gives you a form of wellness where it complements Web3. And that's really what we're shooting for, is that in a community setting.
I love it. So when people are, you know, wondering, you know, kind of what's the difference between just watching a couple of YouTube videos and using your app? What would be the biggest differentiator that people should understand of why this is something that needs to be tracked, monitored, and you know, evolve over time?
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, I'll have to lean on the community side of that, and not just the community, but we're developing a I hate to jump on the bandwagon, but we're developing something called Breathe to Earn. And it's not necessarily a token. We're not necessarily looking to tokenize something and just become another token on the blockchain that people can possibly sell in the open market. What we would like to do with that is have a positive feedback loop with our Breev reward system, where you open up the Breev app or the VR app or whatever you're doing, whatever platform, and as you're breathing, you're earning a reward that can then be used as some type of intrinsic within the community value, a free session, possibly down the road in real life events, if you have a certain amount of Breev points. If you want to sponsor someone that can't necessarily, you know, afford the app or whatever, you can gift those, you can transfer them. So we're looking at something that really feeds into the community, adds value, and makes it more of a robust community that you want to be involved in.
So, and I love that. Believe me, I'm Mr. Community here. But talk about kind of what that community means to you guys. You know, is it random? Is it gated? How do you kind of differentiate between the types of people that you would want in a Breev community?
So what we want to do is we want to have people join the community based on what they're looking to do with breathwork. So we don't want to just say open up a big gym and say, here you go, go do it. We want to have a little bit of a guidance, but we don't want to necessarily, tell people what they need to do, because that's a pretty inefficient process, especially within the community. So what we would like to do is say, hey, you're a beginner breathwork, try these out. And you're trying them out with other people that are also in your same boat. And if you get something where it's like, I really enjoyed that heart rate dropping moment for 20 minutes, then that's where the community starts to differentiate and find the path themselves, because they may find someone that say, I've really enjoyed that session too. Let's do, and then that's when they can start interacting with each other and saying, hey, let's do that next Tuesday, or let's really get on the way, I'm in my car parked in front of the gym. Let's, pump up the heart rate before I go in. You may have 5 people that are wanting to do that too. I've led sessions over the past few weeks where people are like, I'm just about to go to the gym and I haven't felt this way in a long time. And that's kind of where the community is that you can do a session. And what I've been doing with these Breev sessions lately is that when I lead a session, I open up the floor for people to talk. And these are people that I'm looking at their avatar picture and fake names where I don't know who they are, what age they are, where they are in the world. And I absolutely love when people start opening up and saying, I felt this was my first time doing it. And then someone jump in naturally and organically and say, I felt that too. And it becomes a support system, and it's a beautiful thing, honestly.
That's amazing. And so you mentioned the gym and people working out. And so, by default, like I have not used Breev yet. I don't have any breath works that I've done in the past. But I entirely believe and understand it, because the reason that I like to go to the gym, and one of the things I focus on whenever I'm teaching my 14-year-old son how to work out, whenever I'm kind of, helping instruct others on proper gym etiquette, is the first and foremost thing you need to understand is moving the weights is secondary to your breathing. Like, you're there to kind of focus your mind. And if you're not inhaling and exhaling, like if you're holding your breath at any point in time, like you've failed, like right. You're missing the entire rep. You're not getting the benefit of this. And so the idea of just taking that, isolating that, and having it be something you do either before or after, it really is intriguing and something super easy that I can incorporate, like, during stretching, kind of before or after.
Yeah. And Jay, I do have to mention that, and this isn't, I'm not just trying to, I guess, pump myself up, but 30 years old, I'm not 30 now, but when I was 30 years old, I trained and I walked onto a college football team, Mississippi State. So I found myself on a SEC football team at Mississippi State, and at 30 years old, and I would go through these grueling workouts pretty much every morning. And what I would do afterwards was I would go home and I would pass out. So it's 5 a.m. start. I would go home by 8 o'clock and just be absolutely exhausted. I just couldn't keep my eyes open. And what I learned about that is most of that was through breath. I wasn't breathing correctly before, during, and I don't want to say most importantly, but importantly afterwards. So now when I do these really crazy workouts, and I generally, my workouts are pretty rough. So I've been spending.
I missed your beach workout in Permissionless, but I heard lots of it, and I was sad to miss it.
Yeah, we'll have to do it again next year. So
deal.
I'll do at least 5 minutes of breathing after my workouts, and I can't believe the effects. I cannot believe how energized I am after these things, where it would usually make me just ready to eat and fall asleep.
Yep. Yeah. So, just kind of pivoting over to the overall, like, building in this space. What's been some of the kind of biggest, positives and also challenges you've seen of trying to develop a Web3 app and build your community overall?
Yeah. So, something I was really excited about is merging wellness with Web3. And, what I found, I was really excited about doing that. I still am. But what I've found is that the intersection of that is very small. And it's something that I didn't realize going into it, where I was like, Web3, wellness, it makes sense. But when I talk to a lot of people through in wellness, and I've talked to some pretty high up people in the wellness fitness space. We've actually had one of our advisors that founded Row House in the year 2000. Like she's absolutely incredible. But when I talked to her about Web3, and I made the mistake of mentioning Breev to her, and she's like, I don't understand it, and it's not. It shows that we're at such a small intersection that we're building, and that's the challenge is how do you get Web3 and then wellness? How do you get them together? And I think a few companies are doing that right now. They're scaling pretty well. But I fear that the sustainable growth within that intersection needs to be very careful. So the challenge is you only really get one shot as a startup that you don't already have brand awareness. So someone gets one shot to do this. And for an example, and I'll be completely transparent, we were considering doing an NFT mint a month ago. And what we realize is, what's the functionality of that? And if we really look at that, are we just going to be another mint? Like, what are they going to get from it? And there's so many different questions and a lot of challenges of, should we do it? Should we not? And we ultimately didn't do that. It's because we want to add as much value as possible to our community. But at the same time, like, we don't want to get lost in the weeds. We don't want to hop on the buzzword train. So those are some of the challenges is timing. We're at this small intersection. Both markets are massive, but when you put them together, it's pretty small. And the challenge is if you try to go really, really far down the future right now, then you're going to lose people. You're just going to be spinning wheels. So that's some of the challenges that we have seen right now.
Yeah, and I'm gonna kind of echo that. It's welcome to Web3, and everyone just accelerates so fast into the space, and it works out sometimes, and others it doesn't. But the ability to kind of go from concept to execution, literally within, in some cases, weeks, kind of is a good and bad thing. That you could build a company, start a company, deploy your contract, and that rapid fire approach. But there's the maturity level that the idea, the concept, the team really needs. And so I kind of applaud you for not just saying hey, we're another NFT project. We promise we'll deliver something later. And instead taking a step back and really wanting to deliver something that's on a clear roadmap and done in succession on purpose. That's great.
Yeah. And I also want to reiterate the timing of this. It's so delicate. Everything about this, it's a dance really is where do we go? If our main thing is that we are aiming ahead, then the present moment, it gets a little shaky. And I actually think that's a massive opportunity for us, is that if we're in that boat, we're this far along with our concept and working towards an MVP. If we see that shaky present, that means that we have such an opportunity to solidify it even further moving forward, because we know this metaverse thing that we really want to aim towards. I mean, in a perfect world, we'd love to start a metaverse breathwork studio today. Doesn't make sense for where we are right now.
So, John, with everything that you guys and your team has already kind of conceptualized, you've built, you've benchmarked, and then gone back, to the drawing board. What's kind of the couple next steps for you guys over the next few weeks and months?
Yeah, so it goes back to the community phase that we're in, the community building phase. we want to build a community, but we also want to give people something to breathe to. We really want them to get a taste of where we are and what the potential is going forward. So what we've been doing is for the last couple of weeks, we've been releasing live breathwork sessions on YouTube for people to chime in, or not chime in, to join in and breathe together with in sync with people that you don't necessarily, or you're not talking with each other, but you're breathing with people because it tells you how many views, how many people are actually breathing, and it's really a great start to where we're heading. So the YouTube videos, you can find the link on our website. Our website is Breev.xyz. That's BREEV.xyz. We'll have a link every week for you to go to the YouTube.
That's fabulous. John, I thank you for swinging by. A fabulous early concept for all you yWhalers just kind of wondering what it's like to take that leap and say, I'm a Web3 entrepreneur. John absolutely is kind of showcasing the way and the thought processes and the challenges overall of not just you have to explain, here's my idea, here's my startup I want to build, but then in some cases you have to go with people going, well, what's Web3? What's a crypto, what are these tokens? And so it's really, we are that early in the space, and nothing but hoping you guys have success here, find a good runway, build that community. I entirely endorse it. And then we'll see where everything goes. We'll have you back here soon with some updates.
Jay, that sounds great. And I want to say that yWhales is a huge inspiration for community. It's, being part of this community. I believe I joined when there was about 50 members, seeing it grow, and the value it adds is quite amazing. And it's the inspiration, is an inspiration for Breev community.
That's fabulous. I love it, John. You've been a fabulous member and it's true. You were around, probably about 50-ish members, and we're now at about 1,300 and getting ready to go through another growth spurt here, hopefully this fall. So love having you, man. Be good, be safe, and yWhales, we'll catch you next time. This was Breev, and excited to watch the progress over the next few months and years. Take care, guys.